I'm Cursing Mushroom, and welcome to another Destiny 2 video. What's up, Guardians? Cursing Mushroom here. On today's video, I'm going to be showing you guys how to complete the new raid lair in Destiny 2. And so hopefully this will help you guys, right? I'm going to tell you pretty much what gear to use with which class, what weapons, what characters, and so on and so forth. And I'll be telling you pretty much how to complete it, what the best build is, and what the optimal build is for DPS, I guess you could say. So let's get into it, right? So first thing I want to tell you guys is I'm going to tell you about the builds. So if you're using a hunter, on the first part, the picture you're seeing in front of you, I recommend you use the Night Stalker, okay, with the exotic gear piece, Orpheus Rig. Use the top skill tree, and then as your dodge, use the one that gets you your melee back. So that way you'll have more smoke bombs for area of effect damage to slow the targets. Because in this first phase, I'll get more into it here in a second, it's pretty much ad control and a few little things that you have to do. Okay, so that's what I recommend if you're using the Night Stalker Hunter, or Hunter use a Night Stalker. So if you're using a Titan, I recommend the Sunbreaker. I also recommend the bottom skill tree. And for the exotic armor piece, I recommend the Crest of Alpha Lupi for orb regeneration and health when you proc your shield. Obviously on the barricade, I want you to use the Towering Barricade to help block off enemies from points. Okay, so that's it for the Titan. So for the Warlock, I recommend you using the Stormcaller. Use the bottom skill tree. And for your exotic for this phase, phase 1, I recommend you use the Crown of Tempest exotic headpiece. Use the Healing Rift, and then weapons of choice across all 3 classes. I recommend an auto rifle at least, and then whatever you want other than that on this part. Okay, so let's get into what you should actually be doing on this first phase. Now, I just have a photo up now because for some reason my capture card did not capture this part, which is really strange. So I had to just scratch that and get a picture of it, right? Okay, so there's going to be 3 triangles in 3 locations on the map. And you'll see this once you get into this part of the actual lair. There's going to be Arc, Solar, and Void. Okay. Now, what you need to do is before you guys get started, what I would like you to do is, okay, there's 6 of us. Let's split into teams of 2 before we decide to do this. I would like you to take at least one area of effect super class with each area. So like for instance, if you're running 2 hunters, 2 titans, and 2 warlocks, split them up. Do like a hunter at each at one of the, or excuse me, 2 of the 2 locations, and then a warlock at 1, and then put the titan, fill in the gap with the other warlock and 2 titans. That way you've got your supers, you can just send them back and forth because there's going to be a lot of ads coming in, and you just need to pretty much do a lot of area of effect, which gets me to the next point. Make sure you all use area of effect grenades because the enemies pretty much come up alleys, and so you can just trap them there with your grenades. Also, once you've decided who's going where, you need to remember this is going to be your team for the first phase and the second phase, so keep that in mind. Stay together. So what you're going to be doing is, if you look to your left side, let's say you're at Void, for instance, the first one you can see. If you look to your left side, 2 Vex skulls will appear there, okay? They appear one at a time, so you'll pick the first one up, okay, and then a little bit later, the second one will appear. But what you're going to do is everybody is going to get the 2 skulls to their left. So just examine the area before you get started and be like, okay, right here on my left, there's the first one, and then Solar, there's my first one, and then Arc, there's my first one. And then the other one's going to spawn really close to the other location of that first one that you picked up. So be mindful of that. What we did is we had a retriever that would go and get the skull. Now, if something goes wrong, always be on the mic. So if something goes wrong and for some reason the person that you're with grabs theirs and for some reason can't grab the other one, just swap with them real quick and they can hold down the fort and do DPS to the ads and stuff. But what you're going to do is once all the skulls are first picked up, everybody simultaneously pick up the skull at the same time, your retrievers. The little area around the boss is going to have, if you see these little holes here, the little circles, you'll have crystals pop out. Now you need to have one person from each team designated to be the caller. So it's usually the person who's staying back at the location, not the runner. And what you'll do is, like, for instance, let's say Void Side again. Let's say Void Side, 3 crystals pop out, okay? And they're going to be color-coded, they're going to be color-coded, coordinated with the color that they need to be damaged with. So what that means is Void Side will go, okay, they're at my side, the call out. And then what that person will then do is go, okay, I've got 1 Void, 1 Solar, and 1 Arc, depending on the color of the crystal, and go from there. I mean, it can be 3 of one color, 2 of one color, 1 of each color, okay? So be mindful of that. The first thing that you need to do, once the skulls are picked up, the person will do the call out. Once the call out is made, make sure that at least, let's just say there's 3 Void, for instance, okay? 3 Void crystals. Everybody that's got a skull will take their skull and deposit it at the flame at the triangle on Void. So it's real simple. You'll see it. I mean, it's really easy to see. It won't be like, where is it at, you know? Trust me, you'll be able to know exactly where you need to place it. What'll happen is the skull will pretty much sit there and imbue with that flame energy for a little while. Once it's done, you'll be able to pick it up and damage the crystals. So make sure whatever side it's on, let the call out do his job. Let him call, say where they're at and what's being attacked, because you're going to want to put those 3 down first before you put down another set. So what you'll do is you'll put them in where they go in their retrospective side. As soon as it's ready, you will have either your runner or your DPS, depending on the situation. It's changing all the time, guys. So just make sure you keep good communication and say, hey, I got it. I'll take it over to Void and shoot one of the Void crystals. Or if I'm on Solar side and there's a Solar crystal on Void, I'll say, look, I'll pick it up this time and I'll run it to Void and I'll shoot that Solar crystal real quick and I'll be back. So that way we can keep planting the skulls and charging them, because it's timed based. So you want to make sure you destroy the crystals that appeared first, destroy them first. And you'll be able to tell, because once they go a little bit longer, they'll start imbuing an energy around them. You can see it. It's really colorful and pretty, and you'll know which one you need to shoot. So just make sure you take the 3 out first and then continue that process. It's pretty much the same thing, rinse and repeat. Then you'll get to a point where you destroy all the barriers around the boss, and then you'll enter the second phase. Now, I'm going to have different builds for the second phase, so listen up. I'm also going to run gameplay of the second phase of us doing it, and so that'll help you. So here we go with the second phase. Okay, Guardians, on to the second phase. So remember, keep those same teams of 2, so that way you've already got the structure down of what you're doing. Okay, so keep those same teams of 2. It's important. Also, what you want to do is you want to just kind of take a look around and make sure anything isn't different, which is pretty much the same. Just make sure you're aware of your surroundings and everything, because it's going to change a little bit, not too much, just in terms of like the different ads that come out. You get a lot more harpies and stuff to that nature. And if you look, okay, you see that circle that I'm looking at right now? I'm a little bit below it, but those are corresponding kind of like the crystals you shot before. So if now you see I've got a Void, and Arc, and there's a white beam coming out of that circle, that means that it's going to be on this side where you will damage the boss, and that you're going to want to make sure that you're corresponding to this side. Obviously, you want to put the corresponding skulls where they belong first, coordinate with the teams. Obviously, you're going to make sure you need to talk. And then, of course, make sure that once you've done that, the 3 skulls that are left over, you fill up the flames that are in front of the boss, because it does the most damage possible. You don't want to miss out on that damage. So let me get into the builds real quick before we go any further, because I think it is very, very important. It was pretty much the tide turner in us being able to beat it. It was absolutely miraculous how much better it was. Now, I'm just going to give you my recommendations. I promise you it will help, because it helped us. We beat it like, I think, the 3rd or 4th time after trying it, after having hours of issues of just not working. So check this out. So for the Hunter, use Gunslinger, bottom skill tree. For your exotic, use Celestial Nighthawk helmet, okay? For your power, use a rocket launcher. I recommend Sins of the Past or Curtain Call. Or if you're going to use an exotic for that slot, use Merciless. If you're going to use an energy weapon exotic, use the Cold Heart or an auto rifle, okay? And then for your kinetic, use a scout or an auto rifle. Now that's across the board weapons for every class type except the Titan. I recommend using 2 autos for the Titan, and I'll tell you why. So if you look here real quick, let's break into that. You see those prisms that are capturing them? The boss will shoot out a prism, and you have to yell to your teammates, shoot the prism, it's around me, so that way we can make sure that we're destroying it. But let's move on. So for the Warlock, you're going to be using the Stormcaller again. You're going to be using the bottom skill tree. Okay, and then for your exotic, it's going to change. Use the Lunafaction boots, okay? That's the boots that allow your teammates and yourself to reload when you walk in and out of the rift. So make sure you use that rift, okay? Make sure you're using the Empowering Rift on the second phase. The first phase, you want to use the Healing Rift. But use the Empowering Rift so that way your teammates can get the buff. Try not to stay too cluttered unless you have like 2 Warlocks, then you can place 2 Ricks, Rick and Morty, you know, whatever. Play 2 rifts. It's too funny. But 2 rifts on the outsides, not real close to each other, because you don't want to get grabbed up by that prism beam that he shoots, okay? And with the Titan, you're going to use Sunbreaker, bottom skill tree. And for the exotic, you're going to change it to the chest piece, the Actium War Rig, for the continuous ammo of your autos. That's why I recommend using 2 autos, because if you see here, we're shooting the crystals on his body, and you've got to keep consistent precision damage. If you're not doing precision damage, or you're not doing consistent damage, they'll go white again and restart the whole thing. And you don't have a lot of time, so you got to be mindful of that. You just can't keep, reloading because you'll mess it up. And then for the Titan's Barricade, don't forget to use the Rally Barricade for DPS on the boss whenever it gets to that point. You don't want to be standing near teammates just in case he sends out that little prism. It kind of helps you be mobile if you have to be or can be or whatever. Okay, so let's talk about the actual fight that's going down. So it's pretty much the same in terms of delivering skulls to spots where they need to be. You always want to do it first. If you notice in the beginning there, we talked a little about the different colors that were pointing a certain direction. The circle, the big circle in the center, it will shoot out a beam of white light. That'll tell you which location he's going to be facing for the damage phase. So for instance, first phase on ours was solar, and it had the different corresponding colors. So you want to make sure that you drop those corresponding colors first. And then after that, try to fill up the space in front of where the boss is going to be facing so that skulls can be ready and be active for whenever DPS phase has been activated. And in order to activate the DPS phase, what you'll have to do is what we did is all the corresponding colors. Let's say, for instance, they were all on void and they were all void color. We pretty much would be like, okay, 3 people get void. If they're all void, we had them planted, and we'd be like, all right, 3, 2, 1, shoot. And everybody that had a void canister would shoot the corresponding circle to their color and move it towards the center. It only goes one way, so be careful, kind of tap the trigger a little bit. And then once they all get together at the same point in time, if you see here, boom, they explode. The boss's shield will go down to where you can damage him. I recommend whoever didn't have a skull to pick up a skull now at this point. You cannot drop a skull because it'll go away after a short period of time. So you can't just like build them and all set them there to just wreck him. So make sure that you're ready with your skull. Pick it up and make sure that if you see here, he just shot a prism at us. You can shoot those prisms, or just what I recommend is just moving out of the way, because there's no guarantee you'll do enough DPS to them in order to get away from that. So just make sure you're doing that. Also, make sure you're on the fly, guys. If someone needs to go grab a certain skull, say it. Say, hey, I need a skull over here. I don't have one. Do not feel afraid to talk with your teammates about where stuff needs to belong, because that's the whole point of this raid, is a high communication level and procedure. You do the procedure the right way, you have the right build, you'll succeed every time. Now let's talk about what happens after you do DPS to the boss. What he'll do is he'll let out a lot of harpies, and in this time you can take that, hit the mic. You can take that time to shoot a lot of harpies and get rid of them if you see me throwing grenades here. And then he'll open up and you've got a bunch of different little platforms you can jump on. Well, he's going to have white crystals, 2 on the top of his head, and then 2 on his back, and then 2 on his little fat arms down there. What we recommend doing is do 2 layers at a time. So right now you see us shooting at the top of his head. Our teammates below are shooting his arm. You see that was perfect. Once you're done shooting him, you shoot his head. You have to keep consistent damage. So either use the Cold Heart like I recommended, or an auto rifle with the Acumen War Rig for the Titan, or just something that you can keep positive damage. Nothing like a Scout or anything hand cannon. It's not going to work because once you stop shooting them, they'll go white again and you'll have to restart pretty much the damage that you're doing to them. Also, make sure you're getting crits. If you're not getting crits, move to where you can get crits because it's not doing anything if you don't get those critical shots. So be mindful of that. It's very important, guys. Do not do the same one at the same time. We did that forever, and then we're like, hey, I was just like, hey, let's try something. So do like head back or back arms or head arms, whichever you prefer. Pick the one that's closest to you, that's convenient for your team, and then pick those 2 corresponding where you're on the same side. So everybody's not having to run to the other side of his body because it's timed. You take too long and it's over. Also, guys, I wanted to make sure I repeated this because it's very, very important. Make sure you've got all 6 skulls charging. So do the 3 corresponding colors and then fill in at least as close as you can to the boss. So if he's facing one way and you've got 1 color on that corresponding side, fill in with the other 2, and then take the other 3 charges and place them around as close as you can. Just make sure you've got all of the skulls charging, and then whoever shoots the first skull, in terms of like your 2-man team, have the other person shoot the other one if you've got 2 to carry over. So just make sure you're dumping all 6 skulls. You're going to be able to do way more damage. Make sure you're doing your Empowering Rift, your Rally Barricade. Make sure you're destroying adds at the retrospective rate. Make sure you're dodging those prisms. He'll send a volley out of like these. The only way I can explain them is like the Matrix spaghetti-legged freaking dudes. And just make sure you're doing that because they'll kill you pretty much quickly on instant impact. Use your supers to help your teammates. The supers, like the Titan Hammers, does effective damage on the boss if you don't have a skull, so be mindful of that if there's not really a whole lot of ads around. But guys, just sit back, enjoy yourself, shoot those prisms, let your teammates out. And once you get to the point where the boss is pretty much dead, he'll pretty much be at the enraged phase if you don't do optimal damage, and you just keep shooting him. You keep shooting him and he will go down. Just give him all you got. Don't focus on anything else and just finish him off. So all you have to do is just take that time, do what you need to do, and I promise you, if you follow these steps, it will lead you to success. With that being said, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, give me a thumbs up. Don't forget to share this with your friends. I'm sure they need help. I know this really helped me. Once we figured it out, it was like, oh, this is great, a couple tries and we did it. No worries, right? Well, guys, it's been great. It's been fun. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel with a red bar down there. And don't forget, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. Cursing Mushroom out.